That was from 1992. I'm pretty sure it's from Laughs. Yeah. We got a long show tonight. A lot of people have a lot of good things to say. The first speaker coming up tonight is Silliman Soloway. Can I get a big round of applause for Silliman Soloway?
Trying to shoot and yeah, you're gonna shoot.
Sure. Is it on?
Yeah, just push the right button.
Okay.
Oh, I should have. Oh, I don't know. Robbie's got it too, right?
Yeah, I got it. You don't.
Okay. Wow. But first of all, thank you, James, for putting this on, and thanks to all of my dad's comedian friends for helping put on a good show. And I did this at the funeral too, so I am going to take a picture of all y'all right now because this is really beautiful. And I'm a journalist, so I take pictures of everything, and I'm running around trying to shoot video while doing this. But I just wanted to thank you guys for all of the outpouring of love that you've given to my dad. And I see a lot of other people like Safi who said, I think my dad was the Jewish dad that they never had. But he's mine. I also wanted to give a real big shout out to my mom, who's right there in the middle. And I keep missing when you guys give the applause. Shout out to my mom for everything, of course, for being there for my dad. And if anyone would like to sit with her, it looks like I got one spot, but there's still some space. So go join her at that table. And some of you guys may not know, but it's because of my mom that my dad became a comedian. So I wanted to tell you guys that story. This is, my mom's brother had a 40th birthday party, and y'all know my dad is hilarious, but you might not realize my mom's pretty funny too. She was asked to do comedy at my uncle's birthday party. So the story is, I was a kid, and they spent like a week or two working on these jokes together. And then my mom chickened out. And then my dad said, we can't let all these jokes go to waste. So he decided to do the comedy show. And of course, he got up there, told the jokes. Everybody was laughing hysterically. I remember seeing my grandma literally crying. She was laughing so hard. So of course, he was hooked. And I wanted to tell you guys, like, my parents, okay, this is what all my friends in New York say. So you guys don't know, I live in New York. And my friends are always like, every time they see me, if I haven't seen someone in a while, the first thing they say is, how are your parents? Your parents are so cute. Aren't they the cutest? So my parents as a unit are adorable, partially because my dad has all his silly faces and because my mom is just the cutest. But people like just think they're the cutest, and I post pictures of them on Facebook like some people say, like, people post of their children. I post the pictures of my parents being so cute. And my mother and aunt and some other people have pointed out that I know a lot of you guys said my dad was 1 in a trillion, and so the theory is that I'm still single because I'm looking for a guy like him, and there aren't many around. So hence why I post cute pictures of my parents. But I did want to just tell you guys a few things that my dad did all the way until the end. Yeah, my dad was 1 in a million, and even the day before, the day he died, basically, he was making me laugh. Poor guy went really, like, he went 2 weeks with no food whatsoever, and he got a feeding tube, and the last day I was feeding him with this feeding tube, and he looked up at me and said, yum, yum, yum. And there was another funny thing he did the week before when we were driving him to the hospital to put in the feeding tube. He's on the way to go get this thing. He hasn't been able to eat or even drink water in 2 weeks because he was having issues swallowing. And my mom's in the back seat. I'm driving. My dad's here. And my mom finds this plastic bag of snacks that I put back there. And she goes, what's this, Sully? She starts going through it. Oh, what do we got? We got chocolate. we got, what else do we got in here? She's going through it. And I'm like, Mom, that's snacks for us for later. Like, let's not talk about food in front of Dad, who hasn't been able to eat for 2 weeks. And bless his heart, he never complained, even if we were eating in front of him. But At this point, he decided to tell a joke and almost made me crash. He's like, here we go. People talking about food. And then he points out the window. He sees this lady speed walking down the street. Oh, people walking. And some people even get to urinate using their own genitals. I was rolling. I was like, Daddy, you're going to make me crash. So, yeah, Dad was literally keeping us laughing all the way till the end. And anyway, we made it to the surgery, and I didn't crash. But I just want to thank you guys all so much for being here and for loving my dad and for feeling, you know, like we do about his loss. Thank you. Thank you, Jim.
Keep it coming for Silliman, everybody. This is a comedian tribute to Stan Silliman, so I guess I'll get us started. I don't know. I don't know if this is a roast or a tribute. I'm kind of in the middle.
I forgot 2 housekeeping items.
Is it a roast?
All of the above.
All of the above. It's a tribute and a roast. I guess I'm riding the line. Last time I talked to Sylvan, she messaged me on Sunday and told me Stan had passed away peacefully in his sleep. And then immediately I was like, was it a rectal examination? Did they kick him out of proctology school? That'd be overkill at this point. Stan Silliman famously has a joke, and it says, Farrah Fawcett picked the wrong time to die. Because you can't die, it is famously on the same week that Michael Jackson died. And you can't die on the same week that a famous person dies. If that's the modicum for picking the right time to die, I think Stan picked a good time to die because I don't think anybody in this room cares about anybody else. Can I get a round of applause for that? We're gonna start this show. Are you guys ready for your first comedian of the night? Give it for very funny. Victoria Baptiste, everybody.
James just made me cry, so it's his fault. One of us has to have tears, you heartless sons of bitches. So I knew Stan through comedy, and I did comedy for the first time like a year and a half ago, so I didn't know Stan for a super long time. But you know, he was a great guy, and I'm gonna miss him a lot. And so I'm gonna do some terrible jokes that I came up with on the way here. Yeah, right? I'm super prepared. I'm just crazy prepared right now. Let's see. Of course, this is the only time that Stan could actually bring his friends to an open mic. God, these pity laughs hurt so much.
On the way here, right?
Yeah.
Bear and I.
Yeah. You think if I keep crying at open mics, like I'll get this much laughs all the time? Maybe this is how Stan managed to get so funny over time, is that he looked like Benjamin Button at the end of the movie, like constantly. I like how we're celebrating Stan's death in such a way. I like how none of the food over there is kosher at all. Terrible Jews! You're all terrible Jews!
We are.
Stan was the only guy who could be friends with so many young people as an old man without being labeled a pedophile. It was probably because he looked himself like a Make-A-Wish Foundation kid gone wrong. I tried to come up with more roast jokes for Stan throughout the week, but they all turned out gross and confusingly anti-Semitic. And after a week in burial, much like Stan himself right now, confusingly anti-Semitic and also very gross. You got it. Proud of you. You're gonna hear a lot about this, but Stan was Jewish. Ah. Which is a minority in Northwest Oklahoma. And Stan used to always come up to me and talk about, living out in the middle of nowhere, because I'm from Guyman. But today I want to take the time to induct Stan into the official Minority Hall of Fame. He is the world's first Ashkenasian.
Too soon.
Spawn, you only say that because you don't get the joke. The Jews know what I'm talking about. That was actually, that was going to be the name of the radio show that Stan and I were going to start up. Ashkenasian and Ashkenasian. It's going to be a radio call-in show. I was really excited about it. The only thing more dysfunctional and stilted than Stan's right hand were his puns. So I was at Stan's funeral on was it Tuesday? Thursday, yeah. God, you Jews really know how to just take the fun out of a funeral. So for all of you Gentiles out there like me, a Jewish funeral involves burying the person that you are saying goodbye to. But the first scoop of dirt that you put into the grave has to be done upside down with the shovel, which is, I think, the most ironic thing for Stan Soloway's funeral, because he wouldn't have been able to do that at all. Like, just imagining that at the... Oh, I was cracking up. It was very inappropriate. Oh, you should have kicked me out. I had no place there. But it was nice to know that so many people cared about Stan, because he was one of the best people ever. And there are things that I wish that I had told him before he had passed on. Some things like he was the nicest person, nicest comedian I'd ever met, and that he was an inspiration to me. And also, God, I never understood a single one of his jokes. They were all so old. I just didn't get them. Thank you.
Victoria Baptiste, everybody. I don't know if you guys knew this about Stan, but he's really active in the punk rock community. The Senate representative, get up for the very funny Taylor Finson.
How many people are still surprised I'm awake right now?
That's stolen.
I tried to write, I'm not gonna lie to you guys, I did not write that joke. Sorry, I just figure, we're all friends here. I tried to write some mean shit to say about Stan, because I was told this was a roast, but it was like the first time that my conscience has kicked in 17 years or something. So I don't really have a lot. But I got a lot of mean shit to say about my friends, like Lenny Van Horn's haircut that makes him look like an art school lesbian. Is this okay? Is this part of the grieving process? I watched Sam milk this for 6 years, which was impressive because it was one hand, but I watched Sam Scoville milk a joke about missing a finger for 4 years, which is possibly more impressive. That's a deep cut, as Sam would have liked it. No, this feels weird being mean while trying to acknowledge and pay respect to the nicest person I've ever met at open mics. I am a comedian, as it is, with heavy air quotes, but the third time I did stand up, I met Stan, was it the third? It was the first time that it was here after it was La Luna. I don't have a time frame for when that is because I've done a lot of drugs. Ish, same general area, and I met him, and the first thing I noticed that probably a couple people will talk about is that he would just show up, and whoever was hosting, they'd ask him when he wanted to go on, which is some Don Juan shit at your own nightclub, And no one said anything about it, no one questioned it, no one was mad, so I just shut up. So, no, I'm out of my element. And then I watched him do 6 minutes and just killed 13 people. Not like Columbine, but like comedy, he destroyed. And I went up and met him afterwards. Because, I don't know, when you first start, like, everyone's, like, super impressed that you show up more than once. And they're like, yeah, good job, or whatever. And so, like, you know, you figure, oh, you're supposed to be nice to everybody. And then you find out that every stand-up comedian is an abhorrent monster. But I met Stan. And he was really nice. And he was like, hey, you know, are you new to this? And, you know, talked me through a bunch of stuff. And then I was shaking his hand. And it was this hand. And halfway through shaking it, he picked up that I had noticed that something wasn't quite right. And he goes, don't worry, it hasn't worked for years. And then I tabbed out, and I was driving home. I got about halfway to my house, and I was like, God damn, that's a good joke. I didn't even realize it. Yeah, I don't really want to be mean to anyone else. James Nim likes him young. That's funny to me. No, he doesn't really. Everyone else in stand-up is an insecure and, in some way, a little bit of a depraved individual who judges someone at some point. But out of all the times I've seen that dude at mics, I never saw him say anything critical of anybody. He was always pleasant. He was always friendly, and he was always very constructive. Basically, he was the opposite of Cameron Buckles all the time. Anyway, the world is a shitty place without a minute, but we're all gonna pull through and make a bunch of dick jokes because that's what he would have wanted out of each and every one of us. Mazel tov from a goy. James Nim, everybody. Thank you to Othello's. Thank you to Jen. Tip your bartender. Long live Sam Silliman. I can't get this shit on fucking mic.
Tyler Vincent, everybody. Our next comedian comes on the stage. Give it up for the very funny Cameron Brewer, everybody.
Hi, everybody. So this is weird. Just in general, not as like a specific moment in time, but this is just, it's odd getting up here and trying to say like slightly mean things about someone you have a lot of respect for and someone you care about a lot. Like, how do you insult someone who's basically just Mr. Rogers who tells dick jokes? Like, it's a tall order. But I think we're gonna pull through because, like, one, thank you all for coming out here. First off, like, Stan can always draw a crowd, no doubt about that. Even in death, he's pulled more crowds than I'll ever pull in my life. Doing this thing. Stan, I like Stan a lot. Stan's one of those human beings who just always got along with. He's the only older white man in my life who's never called me Negro on accident. Although one time he did say, that was a really good set, boy. And so, we'll call that one a wash. Yes, we'll call that one a wash. Oh my God! Like Stan's fantastic. This is the thing. Stan was also renowned for just like nobody really cared about how much time he went on like during his set. So I think this is like the first time Stan's ever gone under time. Would you get one more joke, buddy? Love you. Just one more. Oh my God. I like to think that Stan like foresaw the rise of Donald Trump and he was like, I made it to the camps the first time, I'm not going back. Fuck this. Not doing this at all. Oh my God, how are we gonna fucking do this? I have 4 jokes. That's 3, so we're gonna see where this goes from here on out. You can't, how do you say bad things about someone you care about a lot? I don't know. Like, half these people are gonna do it. They're gonna say weird things. I'm just gonna go into the stories. Who fucking cares? So I moved away from Oklahoma about 2 years ago to get my master's degree. I'm finishing it up now. Stan, like, out of all the comedians of the Zion scene, Stan was the only one of these assholes who remembered where I actually lived. Like, they just assumed that I was just like, I quit. Like, the rest of them, like, they just assumed I wasn't gonna do this anymore. The rest, like, Stan was like, hey, how's Carbondale going? Thank you, Stan, for remembering that. I don't know how Carbondale's going. I spend most of my time either reading books or drinking heavily because I'm in grad school. So, I appreciate you for coming out here. No, Stan and even beyond that, like whenever I came back, Stan always wanted to ask me like how, like Stan. Most of you know Stan was a sports guy, and so every time I came back, Stan wanted to know how Salukis basketball was doing. The Salukis were the team from the school that I was going to, and I had to tell him awful every single time. They were not a good basketball team, but he always wanted to make sure that like I was going to games and paying attention because he was interested in about it, and I disappointed him every single time, and that's something I wish I could have changed, maybe, but at the same time, I don't care about sports like he did, and I think he noticed that and just wanted to hound me about it until I eventually did. That went nowhere. I'm sorry. I'm in grieving. Get over it. No, but out of everyone I've ever met doing this thing that we call stand-up comedy, I think Stan is without a doubt the kindest, the nicest, the wisest, and he's also the only he's legitimately one of the only human beings I've met doing stand-up who would say something constructive about your set no matter how terrible it was. Like, the rest of these guys are gonna tell me I did shitty after this, and which is rightfully so, I did. I did not do good. But Stan would, of course, be like, you had that one really good joke about the camps, and I think that was something you did really well. Because he would have found it funny. So I guess, getting off here, I'm going to tell my favorite Stan Silliman joke, because he's not here anymore. I can steal his stuff now. You ever watch that show, Keeping Up with the Kardashians?
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
You ever Keeping Up with the Kardashians? Man, those Kardashian sisters sure have had more black men in them than Detroit.
Keep it going for Cameron and Brewer, everybody. That's a Stan joke. Our next comic coming to the stage is a really funny dude. I love him a lot. Give it up for Lenny Van Horn, everybody.
Thank you, James. I want to apologize right off the bat to everyone because I'm really tired. Me and a bunch of other lesbians stayed up really late making that collage in art class. Taylor came by and tried to help a little bit, but we kicked his ass and gave him a haircut. But I didn't really have anything prepared, so I just kind of wrote some things down on a napkin. I want to start out with a joke that I like by Stan that kills at the taco stand when I'm getting my tacos. And I'm going to try to do it right. Recently I had a colonoscopy. Anybody had the pleasure? I haven't been penetrated that deeply since the aliens. Jose and Manuel. And it kills at the taco stand. I don't know why, but they love it. They say muy comico. And they say funny Jew. I don't remember how to say that in Spanish. I met Stan in '96, long before I was doing comedy. I was playing music with some friends, and we were out with our girlfriends at a pizza place around the corner for poetry, which, and I like poetry, but this particular poetry reading really sucked ass, and I didn't want to be there. And Stan got up, and I believe O was there. It's been a while, and he did some jokes, and it changed my whole mood of the evening. And maybe something was planted that I wasn't aware of at that moment. But we talked a little bit, and I didn't see him again until 2014 when I started doing comedy. And it's like we just picked right back up from that conversation. And like some of the guys already mentioned, Stan had a hand, he said it was gimpy. And he knew that it was like that, but it didn't stop him from using that hand to shake your hand when he first met you. And the fucked up part about it is I think he did that purposely to fuck with people. Because Sylvan told me when that hand stopped working, he learned how to use the other hand for everything else. So this hand would have been perfectly fine to shake someone's hand with, but he chose that hand, I think, just to see people's reactions. And then after I watched people's reactions, I learned why he did that. I was like, yeah, it's pretty cool to watch people get freaked out by your hand. Stan told me he was from a small town in northwest Oklahoma, Woodward. And I got to travel there last week, and I was thinking about Stan, and I was thinking it must have been weird, you know, being Jewish in this small town. That must have, I wonder how he, you know, what his upbringing was like. It must have been, I was thinking maybe difficult. And I go to a store, Sweets, and I see this guy with painted fingernails, just really sweet guy, and really nice. And I thought to myself, if the town's always been this way, then Stan probably did just fine. But I'm gonna just say a few more things. I wrote a part for Stan in my movie. I wrote a script, and I wanted him to play my uncle, the lead character's uncle. I just thought that would be great. And when I first told him about it, he made a joke. He said, "Oh, be in your movie, I'd rather die." We haven't shot it yet. So he said, "Just kidding, let me read the script." And he liked it, and we were going to do it, and he was very excited. And which kind of sucks now, because the closest thing I got to it is that collage I did. I wanted something for all the comedians to have to remember him. So, but I just want to share one more thing, and I'm gonna go. Stan was really nice all the time, and I lost it, but I'll just try to remember it. I posted something about my mother. She's gonna have an operation soon for her kidney, and he said the nicest things. He was just like, "Me and O are praying for your mother, and we hope she gets well." And that to me that was right before he got really sick, and that to me just embodied who he was. And I really miss him, and I know everybody in here does. I'm gonna let James get back up here.
Lonnie Van Horn, everybody. Next comedian to come up to the stage is the very funny Julie Drake.
You know, Halloween is coming up, and one of my favorite jokes that Stan did you guys remember it? The sex offender joke? Where he talks about how it's not fair that sex offenders get to give out candy. He said it's their Halloween, Christmas, and Thanksgiving all in one. And they just have to have their nose pressed up against the glass, looking at all the people giving out candy, and they're professionals at it, and it's just not fair. I can't tell it as good as he can. But I'm going to keep this quick because we have a lot of people to get to. But thanks to Stan, I always got to say to my son, "Why can't you be more mature? Stan's ejaculation is more mature than you." And he'd always be like, "What the hell are you talking about?" Whatever. Like the second or the third time, you guys, I met Stan, I'd only talked to Stan in passing, you know, kind of hi, bye kind of thing. And we were at an open mic. It was like the second, third time we'd ever met. And he came up to me after the open mic, and he said, "You know, you did a really good job. You had a really great set. It's got some good material." And he said, "Can I ask you a question?" He said, "Are you really single?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm really single." And he just kind of shook his head, and he said, "Well, maybe if you started bringing some of these fellas to these open mics and they saw how dirty you are, you wouldn't be single." And he walked off in his red jacket. And I said, "Who the fuck was that?" It's like, are you kidding me? That's my favorite Stan memory, because I was like, he would say whatever. He wouldn't lie to you. He would say whatever came to mind. And whenever I was at the shows, him and O were always very sweet. And they always wanted me to come sit with them. They always saw me sitting alone at the bar. But what they didn't understand is I wasn't sitting alone. I just wanted to be as close to the bartender as possible. But they were so sweet, and they always made sure that I had a place to sit, and they always liked to talk to me. And Stan always liked to make sure that he gave me honest feedback about my comedy, you know, good or bad. And he always came out wherever we were at, and he'd always come and find me and give me a hug. So, thank you.
The next comedian coming to the stage is the very funny Andrew Rose.
Thank you, everyone, for coming here. Everyone knows how cool Stan was, and everything, and we've got memories forever. And I'm like, we're sitting here, and I'm like walking through, and I'm like bumping into people. I'm like, he knew too many damn people. Damn it, man! Like, I can't get to the bar. I want to drink, you know. Victoria was up here, and James gave her the light, which is like the first memorial service I've ever been to, and someone was like, "You're going too long." Not good. Like, it's never happened. Like, my uncle's like funeral, no one was like, "Wrap it up, buddy." It was, you know. And then I think Cameron's the first person to ever use "I'm grieving" for a reason why a joke failed, but whatever. I love you, buddy. It was funny. No, I met Stan. I've been coming here for years doing comedy and stuff, it was like Taylor said, you know, you'd have the list and there'd be like 16, 17 people, and then, you know, Stan would come in like earlier in the night, you're like, all right, I'm number 5, and then Stan would come in, people are like, what number you are? You're like, I don't know now. Because he's somewhere, and I gotta go check again, so he always did that. I was working with a comedy festival, we were in Chicago, and Stan messaged me, and he was like, what hotel are you staying at? And I was like, I don't know why. He was just like, I know you guys always have really, you know, you find, you know, moderately priced stuff. And the first thought was like, why do you want like a cheap hotel? And then the other part of my brain was like, he's Jewish. And I go, I got it, cool, not a problem, everything's fine. Makes sense. But we were in Chicago, and he goes on stage. He had one of the best sets of the night. He actually moved on to the next round. But one of the best parts, because he always paid attention to the show. That's one of my favorite memories of Stan. He always paid attention. He always knew, you know, the jokes that everybody did, because, you know, he'd be able to play off of it. He worked it really well. And there was a guy that went up, and he was just like, his whole thing at the end of his set was like, I don't want to get old, because old people just like ducks. There's like duck paintings and duck sculptures, and I just don't want to start liking ducks. That's all it was. And it was fun. I mean, he did it much better. It was 4 years ago. Leave me alone. But he gets off stage. Host brings up Stan. He just goes, I like ducks. And he had the audience from that moment. It was great. So that was like on a Friday. That next Wednesday, we're at the Looney Bin here in Oklahoma City. And he goes on stage, and he just opens up. He's just like, I like ducks. And I'm laughing in the corner because I was the only one that was also in Chicago. Nobody else knew what the hell was going on, and he did the I like ducks, and then he was like, that usually works better when someone says, I don't want to get old because old people like ducks goes before me. Because as everybody knows, explaining the joke always makes it funnier. But no, I got a lot of kind of, you know, faint memories of Stan, but I'll always remember like this wall right here. Anytime he was on stage, I'd lean right here and I'd watch him, and he would kill. And then sitting in the booths in the back, and we'd always hang out, and he was always part of every conversation that we had and everything. And like I said, he always just kind of jumped in on whatever number he wanted to be on, but no one said anything, because had someone said anything, there was 30 other comics to step up and do something about it, and then you just kind of learn to just, let it go. It's cool. It's not going to happen. But no, he was a great guy, and he's going to be missed, and it's awesome. You know, I mean, he's part of all his actual family and his comedy family. I mean, he has all these people that he brought here. It's just insane that someone has the ability to bring all these people together. So thank y'all for coming, and we love Stan. So that's all I got.
Andrew Rose, everybody. Coming next to the stage, the very funny Michael Mann.
Yeah, I can't do the step thing, so you're gonna have to deal with that. One thing about me and Stan, and this is something that I always remember, we always seemed to go on one after the other. There would be Stan and Michael, and he would actually call it, hey, it's the GIMP portion of the show. As I called it, GIMP squared. Yeah, and it happened that way. It always did. And one thing I love about Stan is he was never apologetic about a damn thing. He wasn't, no. He would go out on stage and he would make his walk like a zombie jokes, but he never backstoried it. He never told the backstory. He didn't, because it didn't freaking matter. It didn't. You were looking at him on stage right now. He never said, I have bone cancer. He never said, I had this, whatever. He let you look at him and you got your own perspective off of him. And when he opened his mouth, it was gold. It was just plain gold. Okay? I remember the first time I met Stan. It was actually in this very room. I had just gotten started doing comedy. It's like my third or fourth open mic. And I get here at 6 because I'm fucking stupid. And the show doesn't start till 9. I'm like, I'm getting there early. They do this random drawing. The drawing is done. The order is set. There's two comics in, and Stan walks in the door. And the guy running the mic says, Stan, where do you want to go up? And they put him, I was like, who the hell does this son of a bitch think he... Are you freaking serious? And when I tell you what, the minute he opened his mouth, the minute he put his foot on stage, and he talked to you, he told you stuff you might not wanted to hear, that might have broke your heart, made you feel self-conscious. So, whatever. He made you look at yourself and realize what you really are. And more important than that, after I met the man and I talked to him, there is not a mean bone in that man's body. He has never said, and comedy is a backbiting. This guy said that we're all a bunch of dicks. We really fucking are, but I have never heard Stan say an ill word about anybody. The Kardashians and Donald Trump, but that doesn't matter, no. He's never said a bad thing about a single person. And I tell you what, I'm a better man just for talking to him for 10 freaking minutes. And to have known him, there's nothing to say. I mean, he's loved, he's respected, and when I leave this world, if I leave half the mark he has, I'm fine with that. You have a good night, people.
Michael Mann, everybody. Our next comedian came all the way out from Hara, Oklahoma. Give it up for the very funny Kyle Kubiak, everybody.
Alright, how y'all doing? I'm not gonna go into the whole white trash bitch, y'all already know that. I'm here for Stan. I started doing comedy 2003 up at the Looney Bin doing open mics, and Stan was one of the first people I ran into. And ever since that time, I've met Stan. He's always been great to me. He was always, there for me when I needed him to do shows or whatever. So, I'm gonna really miss him. I just talked to him just about a week ago. We were planning on doing a benefit show for him in Hara. And so I asked his permission if we could do a benefit show for him. And he responded back to me on Facebook and said, yes, I appreciate it. Thank you so much. So we had it all set up, and then everything happened. We have turned that now into a tribute show. So if anybody would like to come out to Hara, I know it's a long ways, I know. I know. You just have to pass a couple of meth houses, you'll get there. But November the 5th, we're going to have a bunch of comedians come up and do jokes, and then we're going to have afterwards, everybody's going to get up on stage and tell their favorite stand story or joke or whatever. So November the 5th, it's only $5, and all of the money is going to go to his family. So all the money off the tickets will go to his family. Just a couple of funny stories. One time, we went to Wichita, Kansas together for a contest that they were having. 3 hours in the car with Stan, well actually it was 6. I got to hear a lot of great stories. I knew about his whole career. I mean, he wouldn't shut up. Even at midnight when we were driving back and we were both tired, he was keeping me awake by telling me these great stories. So, and I always had him come out to Hera. We always used to do a cancer benefit show for the cancer walk. And so I'd always had Stan come out. And one of the shows one time, it was at a bar called the Blue Moon. It was a real dive. And Stan was in the middle of doing his stripper bit, his Jewish stripper bit. Y'all know that? Mm-hmm. Okay. So he was in the middle of doing this Jewish stripper bit, and all of a sudden, this guy gets up and moons Stan. And Stan just looked at him and goes, "You're not getting a tip." And just went right on about his business, you know. So Stan was always a class act. One time I did a Christmas show at Tinker, and they asked me for it to be clean. So I got a hold of the 2 cleanest comics I could think of at the time, and that was Stan and Brad. And so right before the show, the guy, the major that was running the show said, "You need to keep it G. I mean, no, nothing dirty." So I went up to Stan and Brad and said, "Okay, guys, we got to keep it really clean. You know, nothing bad." So, and they were like, "Okay, we'll do it, we'll do it." So Stan was first. He gets up on stage. And the first joke out of his mouth was, "I fell asleep during a rectal exam." Yeah, about 10 minutes later, the show was over. But that was just Stan. I'm going to really miss him. I hope y'all get to come to the show on November the 5th. Like I said, it'll be a lot of fun, and I'd just like to raise a lot of money for them so they can do with whatever they want to with it. Thank y'all very much. My name's Kyle. Peace.
Kyle Kubiak, everybody. Kyle Kubiak, everybody. The next comic coming up to the stage has known Stan for like, I don't know. How old is Stan? A million? He's known Stan for 1,000,000 years. Get it for the very funny Andre Gibbs.
What's going on, people? I knew tonight would be special when I looked up and saw 2 Asian comics. That's not something you see every day. That's in the same building too. Wow, hey, same show. So that was really, really cool. We're doing the show November 5th in Hera, and Hera's not a bad place. Matter of fact, last time I did a show there, the police escorted me to the place, so that was nice of them. Nice of them. I thought about moving to Hera, but the city councilman told me that they've already met their quota of black people in Hera, so couldn't do it. I've known Stan for years. Matter of fact, the video that they showed us Stan doing the jokes, I knew exactly where that was. I was probably there at the show. One of my greatest and fondest memories of Stan, we were doing a Thea Vidal show. And anybody knows Thea Vidal, she brings out the roughest gangster, got a gun, got a knife type crowd. And the comedians were getting booed and heckled and chewed up left and right. It was scary. And Stan was to go up next. And the club owner told Stan, don't go out there. This not your crowd, Stan. Don't go out there. And Stan insisted on going out there and doing a show. So Stan went out there, started telling his jokes, and the crowd looked at him like... And then Stan stopped in the middle of his jokes like he couldn't understand why they weren't laughing. And then Stan put on his glasses. He said, "Oh, okay. What's up, niggas? What's up, bitches?" And they rolled. It was the greatest thing I've ever seen somebody doing comedy. Oh, he stole. I think he did better than Thea that night. It was great. It was real, I mean, genius. Yeah, like you say, you can take something and just go with it. I've known Stan forever. I've known him since he had black hair. It was Stan be truly amazing. Everything they said about him, he's a gentleman, great guy, great comic. He helps other comics who's trying to get that way. He'll give you advice if you want it or not, but he would give it to you, try to help you out. That's all I got. Thank you.
Very nice. Andre Gibbs, everybody. Coming next to the stage is a very good friend of mine, Brad Chad Porter. Everybody, give a warm welcome.
My prostate is the size of a grapefruit. I have the dubious honor of reading something that was submitted today from Josh Lathy, who can't be here because he's got important show business in LA right now. Thanks. Thanks for leaving me hanging there for a few seconds. Appreciate it. So here's what Josh Lathy said. He couldn't be here tonight. He's super sad about it. He said, Stan was our constant. He was our Joe Paterno.
Oh, no.
Much like Joe Paterno, Stan passed shortly after no longer being able to do what he loved. Joe Paterno loved turning a blind eye to decades of sexual abuse by Jerry Sandusky. And Stan loved going over his time at every single open mic in the city. Last Sunday was the first time I'd ever wished that Stan would have ignored the light a little longer. I guess there's only one question on everybody's mind today. Who did Stan leave that weird rubber hand to in his will? That was Josh Lathy. I don't know if at some point we're all going to stop pretending that Stan killed every time he was on stage. What the fuck is that about? One of the things that was so beautiful about Stan Silliman is that he did not give a shit whether or not you were having a good time when he was on stage. He adjusted to nothing. He got on stage, and if it went well, he crushed. And if it went badly, it was awful. You would just sit there in the audience like, he's not gonna sing another verse of it. He's gonna sing another verse of it. Fuck, I'm going on after him. This sucks. I'm glad that Kyle told the story he told because it's the same story I was gonna tell. Stan Silliman and I got hired to do a Christmas party for the folks who defend our freedom. And we were told to be clean, and in his defense, come on, who's not, I mean, if you're too uptight for a prostate joke, you suck. But he did, and he, again, didn't adjust, and just flew that plane into the ground hard. And I'm going next. And I'm sitting there I'm standing there the whole time like, come on, Stan, just pull it out, dude. You don't gotta do this. Just do the shit, it works. Why are you doing this? And I'm frustrated and I'm angry and I take the stage and I don't even get a half of a joke out of my mouth. I don't even get one half of a joke out. And they're like, this is it. Cut it off. Make it stop. And so I literally am like, hey, all of my friends are kind of jerks. How about you guys? No? Okay. And the way this room is set up is there's a dance floor in front of us for God knows what reason. And it's a hotel ballroom full of 350 people. And the exit is on that fuck side of the room. So when I get cut off and humiliated, I gotta walk all the way across this sea of disappointed people to the back door. Every step I was more angry. Every step I came up with some other awful thing I'm gonna say to Stan when I get to the back of this room. Every step, my rage is just growing and I cannot wait to light into him. Throw the door open in the back and I walk up to him. He's standing there kind of sheepish, you know? And I get my finger in the air ready to blast away and he goes, boy, they did not like your opener at all. Son of a bitch. I'm not sure it's possible to say how much we cared about him, and I hope to God that we let him know how much he meant to us. And Dr. O, thank you for sharing him with us and putting up with our bullshit. Thank you guys for coming out and honor him. It's never going to be the same here. And he was just always here. He was literally always here. And I don't know how it's ever going to feel right again, but I'm sure we'll find a way. Thanks a lot.
Brad Chad Porter, everybody. Coming up next to the stage is a very good friend of mine. Give it up for the very funny Melissa McGinnis.
Hello. Hey. All right. Thanks for putting me up after Brad was trying to bring me to tears, so that's great. Goodness. Watching Stan on those videos really made me sad. But then I realized how much better his material got over the years, and it made me happy. So that's good. That's good. There's hope for us yet. Brad was saying how Stan was just always around, and it's true. He was just always around. Even when he wasn't performing, he was just around. Him and O would come out and support just everybody, and I feel like we lost a friend and a father and a grandfather and a mentor just kind of all rolled into one, and it sucks a lot. Just to, I don't know how else to put it. It sucks. And he will definitely be missed forever and always. I love that man, and I'm deeply saddened, and I know that the rest of the comedy community is as well. I had to write down stuff because I wasn't going to remember it at all. But I have a lot of great memories of Stan, but what I am going to share is one time we were at the Looney Bin just shooting the shit, and we had a really long conversation about going into being comedy rappers. And we dug a hole with that for, I don't know, 15, 20 minutes. And Stan gave me my rap name, Shake Master Mel. I shake all the time. So, and from that point on, that's pretty much how he addressed me. So it's nice to have a nickname from a great man. So I like that. Let's see. He was always great to talk about your jokes with you. He would always, give you advice, but not like in the asshole-ish way that a lot of comedians are, where they're like, what you need to do is. He was never like that. It was, always a good conversation. And it was always something where he's talking to you about your jokes, but he's also going, that reminds me of this time when, so it was always a great story too, and inevitably more jokes, because that was what the man was about. And then also a history lesson, and I'm big on Google, so I'm always looking stuff up, and pretty much every time I ever talked to Stan, it resulted in a list of things that I was going to have to research. Some of them were right there, but then sometimes the list was too long, so I'm like, okay, I'm texting myself. I've got a homework assignment. I got stuff I got to do, which was great. I had the pleasure of introducing Stan on stage a lot, and I would always say, he's a legend in Oklahoma City and elsewhere, and he would always say, "That just means I'm old," and I would say, "No, that means you're a legend in the comedy community, and you just happen to be old because you are old." So I have. Stan had his physical attributes that made him gimpy. I wouldn't classify myself in the gimpy category. I'll let Michael Mann do that. But I do shake, so I feel like I'm picking up his slack with Michael Mann. So, he'll live on through the two of us in the community. But Stan will live on definitely in the comedy scene. We love him with all of our hearts and are going to miss him every day. So thank you guys so much for coming out here. Oh, we love you. Please come out and support us because we love you and we'll definitely want to see you. And we're so glad that we can be here with you today. So thank you guys so much.
Let's go get this, everybody. Give her a big round of applause. Coming up next to the stage, Stan's brother wanted to say some words, and thank you guys for coming out. Give it up for the maybe funny. I've never seen him. Dan Soloway, everybody. Dan Soloway, everybody.
Be slow, be slow.
Well, I was more fortunate than most of you. I had Stan as a brother for all my life, and he was always funny. He also had a tremendous memory as a little kid, but I won't go into that. But Stan was a brilliant guy, but quiet. You didn't know always how brilliant he is till he dropped one of those one-liners. But a few of the jokes I was remembering that some of you may not have been around, some of you comedians, when Stan started in 1987. And I remember my little sister sharing a joke with my mother. And because it's a dirty joke, Stan was saying, "Don't tell her that, don't tell her that." And the joke was simple, that him and his wife do it doggy style. He stands up and begs, and she rolls over and plays dead. And another one I remember just a while back, he said that he used to belong to a Jewish biker gang. And on his shoulder, it said, "Born to raise the rent." And Stan opened up for Argus Hamilton. I was really proud of him. There were a number of comedians, but he was the one right before Argus Hamilton. And I guess this is about last summer sometime, about a year ago. And Stan got up there and says, "You guys are probably wondering what this old Jew's doing up here." He said, "I am old." And he said, "In fact, I was born during World War II. And my parents, because I'm Jewish, hid me in the basement." And said, "God, I'm glad that the Nazis didn't make it out to the panhandle of Oklahoma." Stan was always that way. In fact, his humor sometimes went against him. Gene, my older brother, who's 3 years older than me, and Stan was 6 years older than me, we were at Disneyland, and we're sitting outside at night having steak dinner, just the three of us for some reason. I don't know where Mom and Dad, I guess they were inside eating. And I don't remember what Stan said, but I had a mouthful of milk. And I splattered that all over the steaks and everything. And so sometimes the humor came back on him. But he was a funny guy, and I was glad that now looking back on it, I was who he first wrote his funny stories about as a little kid. When I'm 6 and he's 12, he starts writing Danny and Gary stories about us. And he was such a loving brother. And he would get all the kids in the neighborhood when he'd come back from college and even in high school and go play basketball with them. What he's done with you guys as comedians, he did that with kids when they were young. He loved children. He loved people. He loved to be around them. And I remember him getting us all together and going and find a basketball goal and playing basketball with us. And there'd be like 8 or 10 little kids playing basketball with Stan. But he was a funny, funny guy. And there's more jokes I could tell about Stan, but I think I'll keep this short. But I was very, very fortunate to have his older brother. But he's also brilliant. And I will say one thing about his mind. I remember just a while back, and I must have been 5 or 6 years old, maybe younger, maybe 4. Stan had a shoebox full of baseball cards. And on those bubble gun baseball cards, they not only had the home runs, but the how many bases, how many, all the stats, quite a few stats. And Dad would, when the friends of Dad would come over and say, pick out a card. He can tell you everything on the back of that card. And there must have been 300, 400, 500 cards in that shoebox, but he knew everything then. And he had that kind of memory, that kind of mind. Brilliant individual, loving, funny. And I'm glad you all noticed the same thing I did. I don't remember Stan ever saying anything negative about anyone. So thank you for doing this for us. And Orrin, I'd love Orrin to come up sometime during this deal and say something, because her and Stan was such a great couple and they worked so well together. So thank you.
Dan Silliman, everybody. Coming up next to the stage, he's a very good friend of mine. He's super funny. Aaron Wilder, everybody.
Wanda Sykes, excuse me. Who else? Wanda Sykes. What did I say, Kayla? I told you it. I've been drinking. Oh yeah, Wanda Sykes, Whoopi Goldberg, Stan Silliman. What did these three people have in common? They were all comedians who loved black pussy, okay? Stan was the best. My name is Aaron Wilder, and I did a lot of coke with Stan back in the 80s. Everyone keeps getting up here saying they never heard Stan say a bad thing about anybody, but we had a very special relationship, and we would sit right back there on that couch and talk shit about every single one of you. Stan was a fantastic guy, and you'll hear a lot tonight about Stan was at my first open mic. I met Stan at the very beginning, because Stan was there always. And I had a lot of dick comedians when I was coming up would tell me stuff like, oh, do this, change this about yourself, do this first, blah, blah, blah. Give me all sorts of unsolicited advice. And Stan was like the first comedian that ever came up to me and just told me what a fantastic job he thought that I was doing the way that I was doing it. And I think for a young comedian, a young gay person in Oklahoma, those are some very important words that you can hear from someone that you respect very much. And Stan was that guy. I think what I'll miss about Stan the most is someone just to talk about Oklahoma politics with on an extremely granular level. Stan and I loved to sit and talk about which Borans we thought were the gayest. We like to talk about which curs we thought were the gayest. We like to talk about the plentiful opportunities for voter registration that exist in the graveyards of McAllister. we talked about all sorts of stuff like that. And I don't think that there's another comedian in Oklahoma who's smart enough to have that conversation with me. Stan was also someone who was always there to hear that you wanted to impress him so much. And so the first time I headlined a local showcase, Stan messaged me on Facebook about that and told me that he was proud. The first time I got to headline for a touring comedian, Stan messaged me and told me how proud he was and how upset he was that he wasn't going to be able to be there that night. And you always wanted Stan to kind of be there for those big life miles, those big benchmarks in your comedy career. And I got really down and depressed last week thinking how sad it's going to be not to have Stan there for those things anymore. And being around all the love in this room has showed me something very important, and that's that Stan's going to be there regardless. And Stan is always going to be my eternal opening act. And thank you so much for letting him stay out late with us and say bad words. It was the coolest. Thank you guys so much.
Aaron Wilder, everybody. Coming next stage is a man who needs no introduction. Give it up for the very funny Cuff Blue, everybody.
I'm a student of history, so I will not be fucking with the Jews. First time I met Stan, I was bussing tables. He was headlining at Jesus' Last Supper. I thought, I'm tired of cleaning off these tables. I want to do that. So I went to Stan. Stan, I want to do what you want to do. He said, okay. I wound up washing Jesus' feet, and here I am. We used to go on the road a lot. You know, on the road basically means when, first of all, I would like to thank Othello's. I would like to thank all of you for coming out supporting Stan. I would like to also thank Terry and Larry Marks, owners of the Looney Bin Comedy Club. So on any given night when you want to see live comedy in Oklahoma City, just get over to Rockwell and Northwest Expressway, the Looney Bin Comedy Club. Thank you. But anyway, Stan just had a way of saying the first thing that came to his mind. We were doing a show in Texas, and earlier that afternoon, we were in the motel room waiting for the show to come, because when you're a comic and you're on the road, they put you in motels, that type thing. And it was the summertime. In every state, during the summer, they do their tourism commercials. So Texas did one. And in the commercial, it says, come to Texas. Well, that night on stage, Stan got up and reminded the people of Texas that he had seen the commercial. And Stan goes, yeah, I saw this commercial today about Texas. And it said, come to Texas. It's like another country. Stan goes, yeah, Mexico. Needless to say, I had to leave my damn car down there that night. And I tell you something else, too, that used to get us a lot in trouble. You want to talk about race relations in America? You put a black guy and a Jew together in the car and travel in South Texas. And all of y'all know Stan, he'd say the first shit that comes to his mind. We got put out of a grocery store one time in Alice, Texas, which is a little country town. It's on the way to Harlingen because we were headed down toward the border to do a show. It was one of these kind of stores where you could buy single items. There was a young lady that came in there, purchased 2 eggs and a bottle of ketchup. And she was skipping down the aisles. As she turned the corner, she bumped in the stand, dropped everything on the floor, and it just made a mess. Well, the young lady started crying. Stan looked at the mess, looked at the young lady, looked at the mess, looked back at the young lady, and he goes, don't cry, honey. It wouldn't have lived anyway. Its eyes are too far apart. That shit wasn't funny. They put our ass out of the store. Stan had a way of teaching you subtle things. I mean, in terms of race relations, the guy, I mean, Stan was a pretty heavy dude. I remember one time he handed me a book. And this is a real book. You can find this book, you can buy this book today. So anyway, Stan says, what this will help you as you travel around the country doing comedy. Because there's going to be some places you go into, and based on who you are and the way you look and the color of your skin, you're not going to be well received. So Stan gave me a book. So I read the book. He told me this would help me. So I read the book. I was on the road. I stopped in Arkansas. I went into a restaurant. I ordered me a whole chicken. The waitress brought the chicken out. I grabbed my knife and fork and was about to cut this chicken. These three brothers walked up to me, Ku Klux Klan. They said, boy, whatever you do to that chicken, we gonna do to you. I grabbed the chicken, spread his legs, and kissed him right smack on the butt. The name of that book is titled Nigger. And it was written by Dick Gregory, and it was written almost 40 years ago. But in that book was various situations that would keep my ass alive. 'Cause Stan knew. I mean, he was a cerebral dude, a very cerebral dude. And one of the things that I first thought when I first met him, I thought, fuck, one of the Marx brothers are missing. That's my time. Thanks for yours. I'm comfortable.
Cut Blue, everybody. Let them hear it. Coming next to stage is a very good friend of mine. Very funny. Zach Smith.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, guys, for coming out and supporting and remembering one of the most influential people in my life, especially in my adulthood. Stan Silliman was someone I always looked up to, and I remember one of the first shows Stan and I ever did together. We performed at a frat house where no one could drink, but they could have those Monster Energy drinks, so like all these kids were just out of their minds on artificial energy. And if you know Stan's energy, yeah. And I remember there was a microphone, but it wasn't plugged into anything, so we had no amplification in our voices. And Stan got up there, and he had the microphone in his hand, even though it wasn't plugged into anything, because he's Stan Silliman. And he starts talking about Ronald Reagan and how Reagan was a part of this fraternity. And when Stan cares about something, Stan will talk about it for 10 to 15 minutes at a time. So Stan was about 10 minutes into talking about Ronald Reagan. And I remember a frat kid near the back goes, "This is boring." And I kid you not, Stan Silliman dropped the mic and said, "You pricks haven't even heard my material yet." And the balls on that guy, it's just... Stan Silliman used to write songs for all of us, and I think most of us consider it a code of honor to have Stan like you enough to write a song about you. Here's one of Stan's little limericks he used to do about me, and he nailed it right on the head. Zach Smith likes his whiskey stiff, just like the girls he digs up from their crypts. Big wide hips, big blue lips, rock hard nips. I'm putting that on my tombstone, by the way. In honor of Stan Silliman. I remember we did a roast for Stan several years ago, and I had just started doing stand-up. And when I started doing stand-up, no one was more kind to me, because I remember I would go up to Stan before a show and I'd say, "Stan, I'm going to do really good at this show." And his response was always the same, and it was, "Okay." He was super supportive of me. And the first roast joke I ever wrote was for Stan Silliman. And he told me how much he loved that joke and he thought it was so funny. And so I want to do it, guys. I want to do that joke for you. It's a little adult, but if Stan loved it, you guys should too. Stan is so old and Jewish that he hopes Jesus does come back so he has another chance to kill him. And by another chance, I mean he was there the first time. I'm gonna miss Stan with all my heart. Sylvan, we love you guys. And thank you for letting us be a part of this. And do Jews go to heaven? Do Jews go? Can I look forward to seeing Stan? Is that something? I'm a Christian, so I don't know if we get to stay in the same condo. I'm not going to heaven? That's fine. Stan wouldn't want me there anyway. Thank you guys so much for coming out and celebrating the life of a great guy.
Zach Smith, everybody. Coming next to the stage, give it up to the very funny Jeremy Westbrook.
All right, thanks, guys. Wow, I didn't think comedians had friends until tonight. This is great. You guys, thank you so much for always being supportive of his shows all these years. And I think he did it as a favor to us, so we would actually have a crowd here in Othello's for once. And thank you, Stan. This is just weird. I mean, there are a lot of people here I don't know. You know, they're friends of Stan, but everybody I see in the audience is a comic. I've just grown so used to seeing your face, and I think we're all kind of weirded out by not seeing him at all these open mics. It's such a hard thing to deal with, and me and Stan didn't have a lot in common. One thing we did have in common, though, we both had an awesome wife that didn't mind if we went out and did shows. You know, Stan was really lucky, and so am I, and we always would acknowledge that. I want to at least share my story with not the first time I met Stan, but just the first time I knew how awesome of a guy he was. The first year I started, I had a barbecue. I invited all the comics, and they all showed up, but because they're all losers, they didn't bring a gift. It was my birthday party, and Stan was the only one, and his illustrator friend drew a picture of me on stage, and I was also a plumber, so I had like a mic in one hand and a pipe wrench in the other, and I still have that, and I still hang it up, and I just always was so impressed that, you know, some guy I barely knew just took a second out to get that for me. I just thought that was so cool, and which reminds me, that's another thing we had in common, was we were the only two comics that weren't broke. We didn't bum cigarettes. I mean, he didn't smoke, but anyway. It was hard to hear that he had passed, and I just remember like the only good thing about it was like now he will join his hand. And I know he missed it. Sorry, guys. I thought this would be easier. I love everybody. God bless Stan. Good night.
Jeremy Westbrook, everybody. God damn. Coming up to the stage is a very good friend of mine. He's really funny. Anthony Cavazos, everybody. Anthony Cavazos, everybody.
Thank you, James. It's so good to see everybody out here, supporting comedy, remembering Stan for all the great stuff that he did, the great advice that he gave, the great performances he gave. And I want to take up a whole bunch of time, but I can't, because if this goes any longer, we'll probably eulogize Zach Smith by the end of this. He ain't doing so good. I just want to tell a story about when a long time ago we started this show at Othello's Tuesday nights back in March of 2007. I had started comedy in November of 2006, and there were two old guys that we used to see all the time. It was Stan Silliman and George Ellswick. Has anybody checked on George Ellswick? We always thought George Ellswick was 10 years older than Stan. But it turns out he was actually 10 years younger than Stan. So if someone could check on him, I'm pretty sure he's still alive, and he won the bet. So I remember Stan used to go to those open mics. We'd go to the Looney Bin and we'd kind of check it out before we got the guts to try it out. When we started out this show, he started showing up, and to me, as being born and raised Catholic, he kind of represented shame to me. Now calm down. Let me explain what I mean. I felt when I saw this elderly gentleman walk in and I told my dirty jokes that I felt shame, saying them in front of him. Little did I know that when Stan would take the stage, he could tell some dirty jokes. And one of those nights, it was an unruly crowd, not like this one, but very unruly. It was full of, just underage drinkers, more than likely. A bunch of sorority girls, frat guys, all sorts of people, hipsters. It was really rowdy, and they weren't paying attention to any of the comedians. They were heckling. They were making, nasty remarks to everybody that came up. And I thought, oh my God, this old man Stan is gonna get eaten up by this crowd. There's no way he survives this. He gets up on stage. First joke he tells is, I think he told his FDR joke about, that they don't make presidents like that anymore. And he said, yeah, because they cured polio. And a couple of guys in the front said, is he telling FDR jokes? Like, they were screaming like this is too old. We're not that old. They were screaming at him. So they talked about how Stan never adjusted. He adjusted that night because I saw something in him. I saw the crowd had gotten under his skin at that moment, and he kind of made this face like, So then he told his Social Security sex joke. He said, me and my wife have Social Security sex once a month, but you can't live on it. And the crowd reacted, with a little bit of a laugh, like they felt embarrassed that they were laughing at this old man's joke, because they got it, for one. And so he knew he had something, so he kind of stared out at the crowd, and he said, and I could see in his mind the wheels are turning. He's like, oh, I see what you guys want. So then he goes into about 13 minutes of just filthy joke after filthy joke, and each one filthier than the next. I could not believe what was coming out of his mouth. And I cringed in the corner, and I thought, for sure they're not going to eat this up. They loved it. The crowd was howling. They were quiet, waiting for the punch. When the punch came, they just lost it. Everybody was having such a great time all of a sudden. But me, I'm sitting, because he represents shame, I'm like, ooh, like that's too much for me. He gets off the stage. The crowd is just raucous. And I said to him, like, I don't know if I like Dirty Stan. And he had that coy smile that he always had, when he was about to, give you a zinger. And he said to me, you thought that was dirty? And he just walked. I'm gonna miss him. There's something about comedians, we love drama so much. I don't know why. But like I said, Stan represented shame for me, because every time I was embroiled in some sort of argument or some sort of beef with another comedian, I'd look over at Stan, and Stan wasn't worried about not getting enough time or, not getting enough respect from anybody. He was just working on the next bit. I wanted to name my comedy album The Consummate Professional, but I'm not going to, because that, to me, is what Stan was. He was the consummate professional. Once again, he represents shame, because I never told him while he was living how much we respected and loved him, and what a steadying influence he was, and I'm ashamed for not having told him before he passed away. I thank you all for the time, and God bless all of you. Thank you.
Anthony Cavazos, everybody. Coming up next to the stage is a very good friend of mine. Her name is O. Can you get a round of applause for Oren Soloway, everybody?
Hi, everybody. I really... Oh, really? I need that, yeah. Okay. So I'm I'm just going to evoke one of Stan's jokes by, forgive me, singing. If you want to be happy for the rest of your life, who remembers this? Never make a pretty woman your wife. From my personal point of view, get an ugly girl to marry you. Now, I've been in these comedy audiences listening to that for how many years? And keep just wondering, what does that mean? Now I've decided what it means is he was very happy. And I'm very pretty. He did have a happy life, and that's what I want to remember. And you guys, especially you comics, were a big part of it. He loved all of you, and you helped him have a happy life. Thank you so much for this evening. And thank you to Jen.
Give it up for O, everybody. Okay.
Hi guys, I told you my mom is hilarious. Before I forget, I just wanted to mention that we have books of Dad's over here. Dad, I don't know if he tried to sell you these books while he was alive, but they go for $5 for the small ones, $10 for the big ones, but we brought them because we want you guys to have them. So, you know, grab them. If you want to put something in there to cover the books, please do. If not, don't worry. Just take what you want. And it'll mean a lot to us that they're in hands of people who love him and want to read them and want to cherish them. We have lots of extras. So please take. And I wanted to just say one more story about my mom. And you guys just saw how funny she is. But I've been flying back and forth from New York to Oklahoma a lot since my dad got sick, and everything kind of started happening and piling on really quick. And one time I was home, and I was about to go catch my flight, and everything was happening right before I had to go to the airport. We got this one phone call from the accountant. We found out some more bad financial news, and things were just like, you know, kind of surmounting, and my dad's health was not good, and so everything was kind of just bubbling up into horror, and as and I've got to go and get my plane to get back to New York in time to teach the next day, and as I'm saying goodbye, I say goodbye to Dad, and then went to say goodbye to Mom, and I'm hugging her goodbye. And then I was like reaching into my pocket, and I go, "Oh yeah, Mom, I had something for you." And then she goes, "What is it?" And she put her hands out, so excited. And it's just a coupon for coconut oil. And she goes, "Oh, that will solve everything." And she held it close, and I literally was laughing all the way to the airport. So I think, it runs in the fam. Thanks, James. And you guys, also there's a guest book up here. I would love it if you guys could sign it. And we already have names. We'd love it if you could write down something about Dad that you want to share. And if you want, maybe to make it easier, I'll just start passing it around. Okay, thanks.
Keep it coming for Oren and Silliman. Coming up next to the stage, give it the very, very funny Andrew Shank, everybody.
It's cool to see everyone here. Stan meant a lot to me, and just a remarkable guy. I love Stan so much. I don't know how roasty it's been in here. I'm not gonna get too roasty, but I had one or two. You know, there's self-deprecating comics out there, and Stan was getting on up there. I was afraid he was going to become a self-defecating comic. I don't know. Stan was a man of great talents and considerable ear hair. That man could rock the ear hair and nose hair. He's very Jewish in the curls department. Stan lost control of I guess his right hand a few years back, and he never corrected. He never would shake with the other hand, because I guess that would have been less creepy and awkward. I asked him one day, and he just kind of shrugged it off like, I'm too old to change. I'm just gonna have a dead floppy hand. gonna make you uncomfortable. One time, me and Stan did an outdoors show here in Norman. It was a benefit for Relay for Life. He asked me to open for him, and I gladly did. I'm always happy to do something for charity. But he told me beforehand, he said, don't have any cancer jokes. This is the Cancer Foundation. Don't tell any cancer jokes. It's like, all right. So they invite me up to the stage, they do a brief bio, and then they're like, and here he is, a cancer survivor, Andrew Shank. And I couldn't tell a cancer joke. So what I wanted to say was, I'm not a cancer survivor, I just look like one. That would have been my joke. I think I might have been the first contact in Stan's phone. My name is Andrew. At least 4 or 5 times he butt dialed me late at night. That is no joke. And I would listen to the message the next day kind of in reservation. I was afraid if he called at midnight what the hell he might have been doing. Because he wasn't dead yet, and Oren's not, she's still got it going, and Stan butt dialed me often. And yeah, that's it. I also have a carpet cleaning business. I cleaned some carpets for him one time and some tile. And when I got done, he's like, so is that the best deal you can give me? Stan! I gave you the friends, family, and Jew, discount, man. He was a Jew's Jew. I love the guy. He had his priorities straight, too. He really did. One of the more memorable things I remember, I'm a married guy, too. I got kids. And we have a message board on Facebook where a lot of the comedians get together and bitch at each other. It's awesome. Stan stayed above that, though. He really did. But one of the more memorable things I remember him saying was there was a married gal who couldn't make many mics. It was difficult for her to leave the house, and I can relate to that. And Stan just said, don't forget what's important. Your family's going to be there forever. Comedy may not be. And that's something that resonated with me then. It still resonates with me now. It's a very wise thing to say. Stan was full of wisdom. He was full of love and compassion. And I'm honored and thrilled, and my life is enriched because of him. And I know everyone else could say the same. So thank you very much, everyone, for coming out. God bless you very much. Please, keep going. James Nim.
Andrew Shank, everybody. Andrew Shank, everybody. Goddamn. Coming up next to the stage, give it for my good friend, a very funny friend of mine, Wampus Reynolds.
Andrew Shank in the envious follow the widow position. That was tough. Oh my gosh. Alex Sanchez wrote me a couple jokes, so I'm going to say those right now. Stan's first joke was, as soon as airplanes get invented, the food is going to be terrible. Oh, forgive me for this one. Everyone's been asking about the address for Stan. It's gofundme.com/refund. Alex, God. Oh, that is terrible. Jesus Christ. Okay, I'm gonna talk about what I really liked about Stan's comedy. One was his voice. He spoke like a jazz DJ. He was a little hoarse, a little wizened. He did have the panhandle accent. When I say panhandle, it's Woodward. But he thought panhandle was funnier. And, and he would drop his L's. He would say, things are really code. I love that accent of his. He never had notes. Everyone who comes up, they have a notes or they have it written on their palms. And Stan would come up here and just stare with no notes because he had 40 years of material he was drawing from, I guess. And I'm serious, he would do my favorite thing he would do. He would preface a joke he loved so much, it should have had a shelf life, but he would do you remember the 1998 Winter Olympics? I swear to God. And he'd be, well, I'm going to tell it. He goes, there's a skier named Peekaboo Street, and she's now an emergency room doctor. And I'm sure they page, Peekaboo, I see you. No wonder he kept it for 16 years. That's such a great joke. And then the big thing, and this really cemented my love for him, is how he could commit to a bit. He would just, I'm a pussy, and I bail out. I bail out like these people here. I just go, and you know, if a bit's not working, I run off. But Stan would he would dig in his heels. And I remember once he was here, and he did 5 minutes of spoonerisms on the LA Clippers. You know spoonerisms. All the millennials love it, right? You know, you transpose the syllables of things, and it was all about the LA Clippers. But by the end, people were howling. And so here's an example of his. First off, did you follow Funny Jute Ball, the rookie quarterback for the Breveland Clowns? That's a spoonerism. So guys, I decided to write a eulogy for Stan in spoonerisms. Something I would never do, but this is for Stan. All right. We are Tier Who Day to remember Sill Standing Man. Sill Standing Man. He lost a bong ladle with a Kedley dancer. Kedley dancer and sliding is deep. He had won Oklahoma's punniest person. What an accomplishment! Oklahoma's punniest person. And the Soklahoma Thitty Under named him Dunderthad that June. But his porny cuns and his speed spirit really vaped my shoes on Divin Leth. And he will be in my fart whore. Wait, I'm sorry. He will be in my fart whorever. Now some sit here and griet queef. But in a spare dot, okay, I forgot to warn you. This last phrase is directly from that LA Clippers one, so. But hands up in Steven, and I hope all the girl angels are Scary Vinny with Tig Bitties. Thank you, everybody.
Wampus Reynolds, everybody. We're running a little bit late. We're gonna run a little bit past 7, but we're gonna do it. You guys ready for your next comedian of the night? Give it up for very funny, Jenny Godwin, everybody.
Thank you guys. I'm not gonna take a long time because like James said, we're running long. I think that this is just running slightly less than Brett James' retirement party, right guys? Just slightly less. I know that this is the way that Stan would want us to send him off, with a shitty open mic full of hack comics. That's what he loved. Stan really, he meant a lot to me. He was like my comedy dad. He's the same age as my actual dad. And he gave us fatherly advice a lot of the time. Comedy can make you feel a lot of things, like shame, like Anthony said. Shame, I think, maybe is the main thing comedy makes you feel. And Stan never did that. He never shamed any of us, no matter how crappy our jokes were or anything like that. He always gave good, positive, constructive criticism, just like everybody has said. My favorite joke of his was the one about FDR, because I knew right then that he was the same age as my dad. As soon as he told that, I was like, he's gonna be my comedy dad. I met him the very first time I ever did comedy, like a lot of other people. He came right up and said hi to me and gave me a couple words of advice about how to hold microphones and whatnot. I never took that advice. I'm still bad at it. I don't have much more to say. I'll just tell you about, there are lots of funny things that Stan did throughout the time that I know him. I've known him for about 6 years. And the best thing, though, was I had my 40th birthday party a couple of years ago, and we invited Stan and O, and they came to the party, and I was delighted to see them, as always. And it was a group birthday party for me and my friend Trey Baker, and they brought us some gifts, and it couldn't have been a more Stan gift. There's no way, because what it was all of his books that he wrote. And we will treasure them forever. But that wasn't all. Also an open board game of SNL Trivial Pursuit the most Jewish gift you can give. Thank you guys so much for loving Stan. Thank you so much for sharing him with us. I will miss him forever. Jameson.
Jenny got one, everybody. Coming next to the stage, give it up for the very funny Tiffany Watt. Tiffany Watt, everybody.
Hi, everybody. I knew Stan from comedy like everybody else up here. And I have to say he was one of the most genuine and kind and gentle people I ever met. And he was gross. He said jokes that made me blush. And anyone who knows me knows I don't blush. He made a joke, and O and I have very similar sized hands. You know the joke I'm talking about. And I couldn't look at him without thinking of how my hand would look on his dick. Do you know how gross that is? But, every time they were someplace, you knew it was going to be a good night because they would applaud you, they would hug you, they would tell you how great you were. You knew they were lying, but you didn't care. The last time I actually spent time with Stan was at a Russell's open mic. It was the very first open mic there. And he, actually bought me dinner. I was like, dude, I thought you were Jewish. But he was the sweetest, most giving person. And anyone who knows O knows she was the best part of him. So the best part of him is still out there. We still need to love her. We still need to let her know how important she is. And absolutely, yeah, there she is right there. Now, O had asked for a roast. And I know it's really hard for us to roast Stan, because how can you roast such an amazing man? But I do have one. Because I'm a terrible person. Does anyone else feel weird about roasting an old Jewish guy? Just saying. The Holocaust was not that long ago. But he was a beautiful person. We will all miss him. We will all love him. And we all need to keep O in our lives. Because she really is the greatest part of him. And he will live on through us and through her and through the family. And we love you.
Tiffany Watt, everybody. Coming next is a very close friend of Stan's. He wants to say a couple words. Give a warm welcome to the very cool David Donaldson, everybody.
Stan and I go back a long way. I met him in the 1980s. There was a group of us that got together every Saturday and Sunday morning. Closer to Mike. There was a group of us that got closer, that met every Saturday and Sunday morning. And there were four of us, and we were all named David. And we called it the David Club. And shortly after the tragedy in Waco, we changed the name to the Brunch Davidians. And Stan became a part of that group. He kind of weaseled his way in. His name wasn't Stan, but his name wasn't David. Yeah, it was Stan. That's right. Anyway, he would write his jokes during our meetings, and actually, if you must know that we were the power behind the throne, so to speak. We had to listen to his jokes no matter how bad they were, and he would kind of shuffle through them and so forth until we approved of them. So every time he failed on stage, it was probably because of us. There was another member of the group that came, and his name was Mike Krozik. And Mike was the artist that did the artwork for Stan's books. And he was an excellent illustrator and cartoonist. And we lost him a couple of years ago. So the book stopped after that. Anyway, one of my favorite stories about Stan at our group was we were sitting around talking about the people that name their businesses Christ and John's Auto Body or something like that, you know, or the Lord and so-and-so's garbage dump. So anyway, Stan looked at me and he goes, you know, I'm glad I didn't name my business, which was Regency Steel. He says, I'm glad I didn't name my business Jew Steel. So anyway, Stan was really like a brother to all of us, a brother that we could all live with and have fun with. He became part of my family as much as anybody, so I just want to say from all the Brunch Davidians, we miss you, Stan, and we love you. Bye.
Give it up for David Daltonson, everybody. Up next to the stage, this comic drove all the way from Denver, Colorado to be here to speak these words. Give it for Kurt Fletcher, everybody.
Stan Silliman. What a cunt.
They got crazy weed in Denver. I don't know. Makes them talk shit. We got 3 more acts for you. Our next one is a doctor. Get up for the very funny Dr. K, everybody.
Did I get the look right with the shirt?
Yeah.
I saw that in my closet. I said, that looks like something Stan would wear, and he would wear it just like this. And in honor of Stan, I thought about coloring my mustache gray. But then I looked in the mirror and I thought, damn, it's already that way. A man old enough to be my father has just the same color of mustache. But anything for Stan. Because Stan was not only a dear friend, but he was also born to do comedy. I say that because he was a Jewish guy that grew up in Woodward, and he was also the disc jockey on the nation's only Jewish country music radio station, KHEB, Kosher Country. Anything for Stan. Yeah, this is so touching. I gotta read my notes here. I started doing comedy in the 1980s, and I left it just as Stan was getting in, because I was off stage for 20 years when I was a POW, prisoner of wife. And whenever I would do comedy in the 80s, I was always the 1 or 2 youngest people in the show. Then when I came back, I was always one of the 2 or 3 oldest people in the show. And so I always thought if Stan left, I would be the oldest person in the show. Thank you, Cary Grant and Cuff Blue, for being here tonight. Oh, Stan Silliman, as we all know, was a mentor to local comedians. Always encouraging them, always giving them guidance, giving them advice. He never really gave me advice. I like to think it was because he thought I was doing a good enough job already. But he probably just knew that I was too damn stubborn to listen to anybody. The biggest lesson, though, I learned from Stan came after his death, though, when I was at his funeral listening to his daughter Sylvan eulogize him and talking about how much he enjoyed doing comedy and how his love of making people laugh got him through years of pain and sickness. And no, I didn't see a hologram of Stan wearing a robe telling me to go to the Dagobah system. We've got some Star Wars nerds in the crowd. I had to nip that in the bud. But I realized after hearing Sylvan talking that I just need to learn to love comedy more. Because, you know, Stan never cared whether he won a contest or whether he got a booking. He just wanted to do the performance. And he didn't care if he gave advice to young comedians that might potentially beat him in a contest or getting a booking that he might have otherwise gotten. He didn't care. He cared about the comedians. And I'm learning from that. I'm going to learn to enjoy doing comedy. And I'm also going to start being nice to you damn millennials. So Brad, Chad, I'm going to laugh my ass off next time you go on stage and talk about your bowel movements. Brian Stevens, I don't know if he's still here, but I'm going to laugh the 100th time you tell that Cracker Jack joke because I know you only tell it when I'm in the audience. Thank God Justin Smith moved to New York. That'd be a real stretch to be nice to him. Now I'm looking to see if Andrew Shank is laughing at that. But anyway, no longer am I going to go up to an angry Melissa McGinnis and tell her to shake it off. I'm not going to do that anymore. And I'm no longer going to tell people that I used to play football with Michael Mann and we had him on the special teams. I'm not going to do that anymore. I'm going to be nice because that's the way Stan would have wanted it. Thank you.
Give it on for Dr. K, everybody. We have two more acts coming up next to the stage. Stan's nephew. Give it very funny. Nate Soloway, everybody.
Okay, fair warning, I am not a comedian. But like most of the people that came on stage tonight, I've disappointed Stan at some point in my life. I mean, you can imagine, having Stan and O as aunt and uncles, you've got the funniest aunts and uncles you can ever have. This was the man my dad would look up to, which is a really big, amazing thing in your life. And so you always wanted to impress Stan. And so you could see the things that would happen, like when I finally brought a woman home to meet the family, and her name was Shalom. And she was Methodist. Yeah, I mean, it's true. We ended up with a mixed marriage. She has a holy book that talks about a Prince of Peace. My holy books talk about with great power comes great responsibility. We found the nerd level in the room. That's great. But everyone's been saying really nice things about Stan, and I just thought I might, as happens after somebody dies, and the nephews come out with stories of things that happened. He had a cruel side. I mean, he was the man who taught me my first jokes. The high five jokes, up high, on the side, down low, too slow, it killed. It killed when I was 3. And he was always the man when we'd come home for the holidays. He had all the jokes, and I think he saw I might have had an interest in trying to understand it. So at 7 years old, he gave me my first comedy album. It was a Stephen Wright album. I kind of wore that cassette out on my little Walkman trying to understand it, and he wouldn't explain anything. Can you imagine? This is your source of comedy. This is what you're trying to crack codes on what jokes are. 8 years old, you're in the lunchroom trying to kill with a riff on I Had a Pony. Doesn't go over great. To be true, honestly, I never got to see Stan perform. I saw videos. He had some recordings for me. But when I was growing up, I was always curious about it. But my parents wouldn't let me come to the shows. They were good folk. They were raising me with, on some strict standards. They thought Stan's shows were a little too blue for a kid growing up. So I always remember my parents putting in my hands some good comedy albums, some good upstanding men. Bill Cosby was one that we went with. Yeah, turned out exactly, Aunt Sherry. It turned out great. So we're getting late. I'm going to get out of here. But Stan and O are pretty special. Here in deeply red Oklahoma, they were my symbol of progressivism that could exist among all of this. And honestly, when my dad texted me and told me Stan had moved on, I looked at the dates, I looked at what had happened in the news, and I was just realizing that he realized there was nothing left to satire anymore. Reality had surpassed even his wildest dreams of what he could mock. But he waited till just the moment when Trump finally handed things over to Hillary and we knew it was going to be okay. He said, "I'm out." Thank you.
Keep it going for Nate Soloway, everybody. We got one more performer for the night. She's known him the longest. I love her a lot. She's really funny. Give it up for Carrie Grant, everybody.
I've known Stan for 30 years, and we're here to celebrate him. He passed away on the morning of October 9th. He was preceded in death by Michael Richards' career. You think Stan died on the 9th? You should have seen my first act on the stage at Joker's 30 years ago. Stan put the fun in funeral. I don't know what they were talking about earlier, because a bunch of us were over there talking, and I found out, I can't remember who said it. It might have been me, but I can't remember who said it. But he did live long enough that his ball sack just barely touched the surface of the water when he sat down. And Lenny said he had the cleanest ball sack underside of anyone in the business. Now, I don't know how he knew that. They had a roast for Stan a few years ago. They thought he was going to die, well, let me preface this with, in 2010, I went on disability. I had health issues and all kinds of stuff, and I was facing open heart surgery, so I thought, what the hell, I'll go to a cigar club and listen to stand-up comedy and drink. And so I ran into O and Stan and sat down with them, and I had been away from stand-up for a while, and he said, "You need to get back on stage." And I said, well, I'm going to have open heart